Christian, just coming off of that Leagues Cup craziness there on this league, what are you guys' takeaways, and just mentality coming out of a game like that?
Yeah, well, I think number one, it's a 90-minute game. There's no extra time, overtime, whatever you want to call it. So teams can bunker in and try to make things difficult on us. But I thought we dominated phases of the game, more so in possession. I thought we could have been a little bit more dangerous by being a little bit more intentional and direct and trying to get shots off, crosses off. So I think in this we were a bit passive at times. Just a switch of mentality and I think we were ready for the game. We were up for it. But I think that when it comes to in front of goal, you have to be a lot more intentional in the final third.
So just kind of reading between the lines there, you mean 80% possession there in that one, 70% against Minnesota. Do you feel like you now kind of have the blueprint for how to make sure that teams don't stop you when they just sit five in the back?
It's still a work in progress. I think the best teams in the world are still trying to figure out when teams have 11 guys behind the ball. The hardest thing in soccer is to score goals in general, and when teams put 11 guys behind the ball, it becomes even more difficult. And so speed-ups become really important. When we win the ball, can we be more direct in transition? We're still figuring it out, right? Like every other team, but there are ideas that we have, and trying to lure them to press a little bit more. Those are things that we're trying to implement to teams that want to sit back a little bit more.
Is there any worry that other teams may change their system to just combat that? And maybe even though a team may play four in the back, they may switch it up and play five in the back just to combat that.
Well, I think we take that as a compliment, right? Like when teams want to bunker down, it's because they respect us. Maybe they don't want to compete. Pressing up higher up the field and exposing themselves a little bit more, and so we take it as a compliment. But again, if teams do that, we have to find a way to play through them.
Do you feel that there's a change in mentality on that too? Because it used to be, or it seemed to be that was like the last thing you wanted to do as a team. Like, even worldwide, like bunkering just had this bad connotation to it. Do you feel that that's changed at all? And it's more acceptable now to do?
I mean, everybody has their style, right? If you buy into a certain style, I mean, look at Minnesota, what they've done this year. I wouldn't say it's pleasing to the eye, right? When you're at home and you're a fan, I think you want to see attacking football. You want to see, being on the ball a whole lot more, but it's effective, and teams understand that, and there's an art to it, and so for me as a soccer fanatic, if your team is bought in, there's no negative connotation, because there's still an art to it. You still have to play it really well, and you have to be a little bit more perfect at times, and so credit to those teams that are doing it. But again, we have our style, and I think we enjoy the ball and enjoy our style, and so we're going to keep playing the way we are.
One other thing that seems to work very well, unfortunately, against y'all is getting underneath your skin. Is there a way, like, as a captain, to kind of, maybe when you see things building, to kind of stop and huddle real quick and, hey, we're getting on this side? Like, do you need to start doing that type of thing to make sure tempers don't flare, because it's happened so much this season?
Yeah, I think in the middle part of the season we've had a few too many red cards for our liking, but for us it's more about the types of red cards, right? We can't be making contact with the ref, right? We can't be getting a red card because we're arguing with the ref, or we're making gestures, or those are things that you can just totally avoid. And so yeah, exactly. And so those are the red cards that we get really, really frustrated with. And so taking a deep breath for sure, regrouping is another thing, but just identifying when guys are starting to boil, like as a leader, we need to identify those things and keep our teammates engaged in what we're doing, instead of getting sidetracked with the ref or other opponents and whatnot.
When you say we get frustrated, what does that look like in the locker room? Do you guys kind of like say, "Hey, Danny, like you can't do that"? Like, what does that frustration manifest?
Well, it comes from our coach first and foremost, right? After the game, that was the first thing that he addressed, right? It's not that we won; it's, hey, you put your teammates in a tough spot, right? And he did the same thing with Nuhu. So it starts with him, and then it trickles down to us to kind of help our teammates. Yeah.
Where's the mentality of the team? You guys were in such a high. Then there's a couple of games where you guys can't score. Where are you guys at now?
Yeah, I think that we have been playing well still. I think that the ball needs to go in the back of the net, and we can't lose that confidence that we had over the last 6 games prior to that, 8 games prior to that. And so, I think we're in a good spot still. I still think that we have a lot of belief, but again, I think the intentional part when we're playing against a 5 in the back or a team that drops down to 11 players is how can we be a little bit, how can we speed up the attack a little bit more in order to score goals, because that's when you break opponents down. It's not when you let them get set and we're trying to make it even more difficult on ourselves.
No Danny Masovsky in this one. You guys are down to ultimately one striker, essentially. First of all, what do you expect out of Kansas City? And, as a captain, you've kind of mentioned before that, there's injuries, there are things. And is it frustrating at all that there's no new acquisitions, no more help for the team coming in as the transfer window closes?
Well, I think Danny is part of this game. If I'm
Oh,
not mistaken, it's
Jesus,
MLS.
you're right. I'm
No,
sorry.
okay.
My
You're
bad.
confused. I'm getting confused too.
I got confused there too. My bad.
So we're going to need him, obviously, and then we're going to need him to step up, right, and to have a good reaction to what happened in the game, and he knows that, and so whether it's Ozaze for, it kind of has to be Ozaze for Leagues Cup, but he brings a different profile, and so when teams do put 5 in the back, 11 guys behind the ball, he gives a little bit more of a threat crossing wise. He is a threat in the box, but I think that we have a really good team. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of bad injuries, and that's kind of brought up the whole transfer window stuff. But we really believe in our team. We have a lot of depth, and we've shown that all year.
Going back to the penalty shootout, Andrew in goal, just your perspective on that 5th one where he tells the crowd, "I got this one." Just take us through that moment from your perspective.
Yeah, it's great to see his confidence, right? Andrew's so good at penalties. Like he's so powerful, and so his ability to kind of wait a little longer than most goalies and still get there is what separates him from most goalies in penalty shootouts. And the team had confidence, but you can see his confidence going into the last penalty, and so credit to him. It's been a journey for him. It's tough for him to be behind Steph for so many years, and we're seeing him kind of rise up over the last 2 years to the occasion.
What's it like facing Andrew when you're practicing penalties here?
Yeah, it's tricky because you need to try to keep him on his line a little longer, because if you blast it, he's just guessing, and he'll get there timing wise. And so if you try to unbalance him, I think is probably the best way to go.
There's 4 MLS teams, and can you kind of talk maybe a little bit about the progression of MLS teams in this tournament and against it's obviously the next teams. So yeah, the progression to be able to have 4 now, that challenge.
Yeah, look, we are all at home, to be fair, right? So it's a bit skewed in that sense, where it becomes a little difficult for Liga MX teams to come over here and try to compete, right? It doesn't take away from some of our performances, but I do feel that our league is getting better. If we can do a better job of playing away from home in Liga MX in Champions Cup, that's something that it would put us in a better spot moving forward. But I think that we've made a whole lot of progress from my time in the MLS, and I think that with transfers and money being integrated into the league and maybe the schedule change, the league is going to get so much better.
when it comes to those
Last
big
couple
names
for
coming
Cristian
into the Western Conference, Son, Mueller, the approach to you guys is said that the collective can beat the talent. Is that kind of the sense there when you guys don't really have those sort of transfer windows?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We'd love to have, a individual difference maker, of course, right? Like any team. When I think about that, I think of the Botafogo striker who went to Nottingham Forest and he scored out of nowhere, right? We would love to have that, but the collective is what makes us so good and special, and the culture that we have, and the personalities in our locker room. There are no egos. Everybody's pitching in. That's what makes us so good together. And so, of course, if you want to be, global, we're going to have to make those types of transfers eventually. But right now, I feel like our collective is what makes us so good and sustainable, right? Like we've been able to sustain this for a really long time. But we'll never know. That's not my job. But I'm always happy to comment on those things.
Thank you.